Hey everybody, welcome back to LaraChat Live. We are actually in our second episode of a so-called comeback of sorts.
It's just season two. We just had a little bit of a break, and this is just
Season two.
season one was about 4 years long. Season two is just starting.
I like that. That's a really good analogy. Thank you, Eric. So what is it? Episode 37, right?
That sounds
Whatever.
right.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. It doesn't really matter. Nobody's counting. Nobody's watching any. Oh, we have one viewer. Hey, how you doing? So, just kind of recap. Last week, we kind of talked with J Mac and Joe. Unfortunately, they were a bit busy today, so we had to, settle for TJ here. Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate you being here. One of the things that we did is, in the last show, it kind of, went around to each person. It was like, hey, what have you been doing? What's new with you? What are the cool things you've been up to? But TJ, since you missed it out last time, what the heck are you doing?
A whole lot. I'm been taking some time after Wave. I just kind of needed to take like a mental health break on life a little bit and try to get like things in order and get organized, and I don't know, just like relax a little bit and just get like dialed up for things. So
You've been kicking out the packages, though, right?
yeah, I've been trying to. So I've been doing a lot of work with Honey Badger on like a whole new suite of like PHP and specifically Laravel integrations. So that kind of got me in the packaging vibe, and I'm continuing to like iterate and do a lot of cool work with them. And then any opportunity I can find at this point to like knock out a package that's hopefully helpful to somebody. I'm trying to find the opportunity to just do it and just hit publish and see what happens with stuff. And then, yeah.
I just to jump in here, Honey Badger. I've seen you mention the packages on Twitter. I've looked at them. I don't know what Honey Badger is.
So Honey Badger is like an exception reporting tool. So kind of like in the scope of like Laravel, you've got your exception handler. Inside of there, you can you can install the Honey Badger package, and then as the handler gets the exception, you can send it over to Honey Badger to collect and report it. So you can alert, like you can get all of, like the stack trace there. You can have it alert to a whole bunch of different services, and then so you get kind of all of like your error tracking and monitoring there. But then also they've got some really cool features to do with check-ins. So you can have like your scheduled tasks and like cron jobs like hit a URL when they're done, and then they've got some settings in there that can kind of control like what the parameters, like what the outliers are for that. So if it phones in late, then you'll get an alert that like your cron job isn't running on time. And then they've also got the ability to like ping your service and like hit URLs and tell you if it's up or down there too. So it's a pretty fantastic service. It's been a real honor to work on these projects with them and get to kind of see the service. I hadn't heard of them really much before I had started working on it, and I've been super impressed. The team behind it is really cool too. They've got like we're very aligned on a lot of the same stuff, is just to like provide an awesome user experience and make it as easy as possible to use and integrate.
Nice. That's really cool. And I cut you off. You were going to mention something else?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been like trying to publish packages and like be useful on the internet, and I've been really getting into the full swing of getting back onto the APIs with Laravel course. So been starting to do a lot more planning there now that I'm feeling a little more rested and kind of have like my stuff in order a little better now. So that's about all I've been up to. Trying to be a good dad.
Nice. And one of the things that I think we could share is I've had TJ do like a hangout session with the team that I work with to kind of pick TJ's brain about API development and all those kinds of things. So I guess I don't know if I should say you're open for business if people want API consulting work, or
yeah, I've been doing like a handful of API consulting and just like a little bit of like one-on-one coaching here and there with different developers. And yeah, I've come in and worked with your team a little bit. I've consulted with a couple other teams. And that's been like really rewarding and a lot of fun. I think that's definitely where I'd like to see my career go, is a little more of like a coaching, teaching, sharing knowledge and like learning stuff with people. And just kind of like more contribute to helping other people do cool stuff too.
Nice. So I don't know what this show is about. I mean, one of the things is it's actually really risky for us is we go live, but we don't have like Eric talks on his PHP Ugly podcast. They have a Trello board where they have topics and things to talk about, and then it's all planned. But here we are. We're live. We're ballsy, and we don't have a plan.
Wait a minute. We're live.
We're live. No, we just we do this on a regular basis, right? We just all call each other and laugh and hang out, right? This is normal. So I would like to hear a couple things since I've loosely kept up with a couple of you guys and I listen to everybody's podcasts and stuff. So I've got maybe some areas of discussion that I'm sure you all talked about last time. But Matt, I want to hear how things with Mission Control are going.
It's interesting. It's been a very big learning journey. And yeah, how do I even begin? Well, I kind of recapped a lot of this in the last episode, but like in a nutshell, it is true what they say that marketing is probably like 75% of the work and writing the code is 35. If any developer out there thinks that they're just going to magically write something and it's going to sell and they're going to make money on it, good luck. Just good luck to you, because it's it was interesting. I was reading a blog entry on Justin Jackson, I think. Yeah, on his blog, talking about kind of how the SaaS market has changed so much in the last 10 years. And he's like, you can't, I don't think it was his words specifically, but all the different quotes he took from a variety of people, they were mostly saying you can't be under the impression that the market is as open as it was 10 years ago, because it's not. There are tons of other developers like you who have built similar things in similar markets and have had umpteen years to gain on you, have had way better networking connections than you've had. And, in most cases, an app's going to have a bit of an organic growth phase to it. But if you don't have a really good foothold in a crowd, it's harder to get that ball rolling, right?
Yeah, I think lately I've seen a couple people really executing very well in product marketing space, and it's like Derek Reimer with Level and Ben Ornstein with Tuple. Like those people have just been those two guys have been, I think, just crushing it in I've seen a little bit of Derek's code, but I think from the marketing perspective, and I'm sure the code will follow suit, I think they're just killing it right now. And but so those might be good places to look to kind of find some inspiration too.
Oh, totally. It's just that's like the few and far between, right? For every one of them, there's 30 of me, for example, who
for sure,
who might be more geared onto the coding side and may not be so primed on the marketing side of things, or what have you. But it's been a lot of learning so far.
One of the things that you could do would pull what TJ did and go speak at a conference like LaraCon, and then at the end of it you announce, oh, by the way, I'm going to put together an API with Laravel course. And what did you have? I'm assuming 10,000, 20,000 signups for your now that's a product market fit instantaneously.
Man, I'm just trying to be useful. That's all. I just want to help people and be useful. Yeah, there you go. That's key.
Yeah, that's the marketing trick right there, is grow a beard and you're good.
I mean, that's why Eric's crushing it right now.
Wait, define crushing, because is he sitting on something, or are we talking about him being successful in business? I have no clue. Eric,
I'm not sure why I come here, man. I'm not sure. See, here's the problem. Weed is legal in Canada now, so those two are baked out their minds and think that this is funny.
Well, hey, man, we just legalized it here in Michigan too, so.
Oh, that's right. That just happened.
Fun fact: do you know who actually powers the entire e-commerce platform for all the weed sales in Ontario?
Yep.
No idea.
Shopify.
Get out of here.
The whole thing is Shopify driven.
Why wouldn't you, right? I mean,
They're huge.
It's going to be, well, and it's going to be a massive market, right? I mean, it's
but they signed a deal. Shopify signed a deal with the federal government. I think the federal to handle most of the e-commerce side of it all. But I know for a fact, if you go to the Ontario retail outlet, the whole thing is just a Shopify driven thing. And it's interesting. It's been so interesting seeing because in general, like nobody really knows what any of the laws are related to this stuff, or like, except that you can, right? Like that's what generally most people know. And it's so interesting to see, like, if you browse the site, because of course I browsed the site, why not? And it's like they ask you for your age, and it's like, well, come on, I mean, there's no validity to that, and you could easily integrate a validator, and then it's actually packages of products. You can't actually see what anything looks like, and they're also not allowed to show any photos of people smiling or having fun, and all these different really weird rules, which I think is hilarious because some company in Nova Scotia got in crap because they had a bunch of smiling people on their homepage. And it's like, no, you can't say it's fun. You can just say it's a thing and it's for sale.
You know, that's actually interesting because fun story. I was on a commercial for the hockey stuff I've done, and it was the Molson Canadian commercial, which for Eric and TJ, if you don't know, that's a Canadian beer. It's really,
I feel like this is probably the most Canadian story I've ever heard.
Okay, you know, and I wasn't going to go into, it was a hockey commercial. We were flown in a helicopter into the Rocky Mountains and played hockey on a frozen lake 5,000 feet into the mountain, way up there. Anyway, they made a commercial out of it. And part of it was we had, like a beer, and there were rules around it. Like you could not lift the beer above your head. You could not be seen drinking it. The smiling, you could not clink beer together. There were literally all these rules for the beer commercial of how you're supposed to look like you're having fun, but you can't sell it or oversell it or something like that. So that's interesting. They're doing the same thing with the marijuana sales. I can see why, but was that Canadian enough for you?
It just goes to show how complicated marketing gets, right? I mean,
I was about to say to bring it completely full circle. I mean, we're back on the topic of marketing and all the nuances around what you can do, what you can't do, how challenging it can really be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's one of the things that I'm working on, like a theme marketplace, and I know for a fact that the second I launch it, I have a problem where I need to get customers. I'm not going to be able to get customers because I'm not a marketer. So I don't have money or anything to go and pay marketer to do this work. So like Matt.
Okay, so let's talk about that because you gave me a hard time. You reached out to me because I didn't pump up what you'd been doing so much, Sean, on the last show. And like I shared on PHP Ugly, you and I communicate so much and we're always sharing ideas that I'm constantly losing track of what I'm allowed to talk about and what I'm not allowed to talk about with the stuff you're doing. So tell us, because you've got a couple of pretty cool sites coming down the pipeline here.
Yeah, I guess so. So
or are we not allowed to talk about it now?
You're totally not allowed to talk about it on that, or Eric, but now I'm put on you put the pressure on me, so I gotta, right? So the one is called balmastyle.com. It's a theme marketplace based off of the balma.io CSS FlexGrid CSS framework. So I'm putting together some themes that people can purchase. And the inspiration came from it because I really enjoyed the Balma CSS framework. Found it really easy for me to work with and build up some really quick sites. So it's like, make a theme marketplace. Let's do this. It's a little bit taking me a little bit longer than I had hoped, but it's getting there. And I shared enough of it here, and people are popping in. Anyway, it's taking a little bit longer to get it to a point where I'm ready to launch it, but I'm getting pretty close. I've got about, I want to say, 4 themes that are HTML, CSS skinned up, and then like, I want to say 8 to 10 PSD themes that are just waiting to get skinned. So it's just been kind of like a process to get this ready, to have enough theme to go out and launch it and see if people actually want to buy these things, try and get product market fit. Aside from that, I do a lot of volunteering with startups in who are getting going with what they're doing, blockchain specific mentorship and advisorship there, helping companies where they don't understand what blockchain is and how they can integrate it within their systems. That's one of the other things. I started building a site that I could well, this one is just like if a client ever wants my services, I have it the pricing on there where a client can sign up for X number of hours of my development time for a retainer.
Oh, nice.
And I've included a design portion so you can make, and Matt can kind of attest. He's kind of trying this out right now, where I have designers who will do design work for me. So you put in you can have an unlimited request during the month, one design in the pipeline. So in Matt's case, he was asking for a logo for one of his applications. So it's in the pipeline. They're iterating upon it. I provide the design back to Matt, and Matt can be like, hey, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And so kind of open that up to the Laravel community and some of my friends and family to be like, hey, how much would you pay monthly to have unlimited design requests? And we deliver that. So I'm just playing with all different kinds of ideas and seeing what sticks.
Nice. So just out of curiosity, has anybody here embraced Tailwind as far as for their front end design, as opposed to, I know you're a big Bulma person and Bootstrap's out there. I mean, I kind of have, but I'm not doing enough front end development to continue my knowledge of it and to continue to push it. I have kind of set the direction for my company, and I'm trying to get them to embrace it. And I kind of took the approach of, give me a reason why you don't like Tailwind. I mean, what's it not doing for you? Because I'm not a front-end designer, and I was able to start duplicating looks and feels that I've been wanting to do with Bootstrap for a long time, but I always struggled. And with Tailwind, just watching some of Adam's talks on it, I was able to duplicate. But even my front-end guy, he's kind of he's starting to embrace Tailwind a little bit, but it's been like a much longer road than I had anticipated. Have any of you guys really embraced Tailwind yet?
For me, I haven't, and the whole Balma theme thing started either just around the same time Tailwind started or was being launched or whatever. So I'm kind of committed to the Balma theme framework myself. I honestly have not looked at Tailwind deep enough to really, say. But how about any of you other guys?
Yeah, man, I am all in on Tailwind. I recently just redid my personal site and my blog. That's all Tailwind. And then I've got probably 4 or 5 internal projects at work that I did all on Tailwind. It's awesome. Like I started with David Hemphill's Beard CSS, which was kind of before Tailwind was around, but very much the same process of just you have a bunch of utility frameworks, you don't write a ton of CSS, you kind of compose everything in the DOM, And so I kind of was like, I was already on the utility first train, like before Tailwind came around. And by the time Tailwind came around, like I was completely sold. Like it's fantastic.
Cool. Matt, any opinion?
Yeah, well, so I haven't used it yet. I like the utility thing. I've never had a problem with that. I was doing that, like I had my own little utility things because I nicknamed them Raw because I was like, Raw CSS. Anyway, but I haven't. The challenge for me is that like my day work stuff is all Bootstrap all the time, and there's no getting out of that because we now are starting to use the Bootstrap View components. So like the Bootstrap updating is all done for you and stuff, which is awesome. They're really nice little components. I've been enjoying them, but it kind of corners me in like I'm spending, 8-9 hours a day staring at Bootstrap related stuff to then take the extra time needed to kind of be able to totally grasp the way Tailwind structures everything and then switch all of my patterns to use that. It's a harder conversion, right? And I haven't had any reason to switch, especially now with Bootstrap having its own utility stuff in there. I'm like, well, meh. I just haven't seen a use case to convince me yet.
I have a similar issue in the sense that we outsource to a design firm as well, and they have no understanding of Tailwind. They do everything in Bootstrap. And the only other solution they've offered is the Balma one. So it's like, I feel kind of like they give us solutions with the Bootstrap, and I'm like, I really don't want to use Bootstrap, so we're kind of iterating through it and converting stuff. And I've seen some packages that actually convert Bootstrap to Tailwind, but I haven't used any of them yet. But I don't. I feel sort of bad because I don't have like a good enough concrete enough reason for doing it, except to say this is how I want it done. And so that's kind of been the marching orders so far. But yeah, I think I need to redo our company site and just redo it in Tailwind just to get my hands back around it and really start to embrace it, because like I said, when I was first doing it, it just seems so natural to me. I'm always a little shocked that it doesn't seem. I mean, it is just CSS, right? So it's not like there's a lot of logic and it's not doing like a bunch of heavy lifting. But yeah, I just don't see it talked about as much as I had anticipated seeing it talked about, except for within obviously the Laravel community because of who developed it and that's kind of where it was born. But outside the Laravel community, it's like you're hard pressed to find people who are, or at least I am. I rarely come across anybody who are familiar with Tailwind.
I mean, I'm not super in the front end scene, but outside of really well known stuff like Bootstrap or Foundation, you really just don't hear. I just don't hear many people talking about CSS frameworks. Period. Not necessarily just Tailwind, but really anything other than Bootstrap, Foundation, Balma here or there. Like I don't hear really talk about any of it. Some of the stuff I've really appreciated about Tailwind is just how fast you can get up and building things with. Like I know you can say the same thing about like Bootstrap, but doing something that's not predetermined. So it's like, with Bootstrap, you've got like kind of predetermined components. You're kind of manipulating like that set of, components that they give you out of the box for the most part. But to be able to take a totally custom design and just run with it, I've never worked with anything that you can do that faster with. So
and if you're listening to this and by chance don't know what we're talking about or haven't seen any of Adam Wathan's videos on it, I mean, the guy will like pick a site. I think he does Coinbase one time. He does another site as well and just starts mimicking the site with Tailwind, and it's just sick to watch him do it. I mean, he just the way he just starts manipulating the components and starts rebuilding the site to look like another site is just crazy.
I think that kind of goes I think it makes sense though when you start thinking about who talks about the stuff the most and who we all listen to the most. We all listen to mostly developers talking about developer stuff. And I don't know that many devs who have designer people doing up really complex or really unique designs where the first gut reaction would be, oh, I want to use a utility based, like utility CSS based approach, right? Where you more often than not, you like find some crap template somewhere and you're like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I'm just going to dick around with this little thing here and there. I got a new website now. It's actually nice, TJ. I was looking at your site a while ago and I was like, oh, it's actually really nice because it's just clean cut. It's simple. There's nothing trying to be over the top or anything else. So I think it all depends on that influence, right? As to whether or not somebody would be immediately jumping on stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it comes just down like to who's implementing it too. I think you can have like if you've got a designer who's just like, hey, for a lot of times, like I'll work with somebody on the design side. I'm like, hey, just like work in Sketch or whatever you're comfortable with, even just like rough sketches of something. Like just kick that over to me, and then from there, I have no problem doing the implementation in Tailwind. But it's like for me, at least the creative design portion of it, I'm not that great at. And I would have never considered myself like that great on like the front end implementation of stuff until having something like Tailwind. And one of the cool things is like kind of the scale that they provide for like spacing and sizing forces my like whatever I come up with to be far more consistent because there's like a predetermined scale and I'm kind of operating inside of that scale. So everything kind of, fits together so much nicer than I think I could have ever done without the framework.
TJ Miller has got to be one of my friends. I consider you a friend, TJ. One of my friends that I have that I can't Google. Like just about anybody else in my little development world, I can Google and get to their homepage. I Google TJ's name. I'm like, who's this jerk? Oh, that's right. He's a famous person.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. Like it's kind of neat to like be ungoogleable for the most part. But in the same time, it's like also kind of a pain.
Well,
Sean, you're being quiet over there.
I'm just soaking it all in. I'm thinking, man, everybody talking about the design stuff, but why don't you come bug me for this recurring unlimited design as a service thing I'm trying to put on?
I didn't know it was a thing.
That's the problem. That's my marketing problem, right?
Yeah, you got to market better, Sean. Come on here.
Yeah, I know. But the other thing about being ungoogleable is if you take a look at Matt Lance, there's nothing there for you. Marketing, Matt, you need to work on that.
Just present records. That's all I ever find.
It's interesting too. I've never seen, but I've always thought, and I don't know, maybe it is a thing, maybe it's not. Marketing as a service. Like you think about like design as a service and stuff like that. I'm surprised, especially now because I've been seeing this more and more with like Instagram influencer networks and stuff like that. So it's like you can connect with a variety of these, people who have hundreds of thousands of followers and stuff, right? And kind of get into their little loops. And it's always been interesting to me that I've never really seen that in the developer world, or at least that it's made itself present, right?
I was gonna say, I think you do. I think you see it. It's just subtle, but I think you see it. I mean, like whenever you see a developer coding, what's the first thing you do? What are they using? What tool are they using? I can almost guarantee you, Sublime has doubled and tripled their sales just from the fact that it's what Taylor uses, it's what Adam uses, and those guys see that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think it's there, but I don't think it's as organized as these influencer networks are that you mentioned.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It'd be interesting to see if somebody could do something with that, where you would actually have the ability to like connect in, and even if it is putting in like buying in on a smaller level to get yourself spread like that, right?
Isn't that what Patreon is at some level?
But it's hard.
Not really. Patreon is just people just being generous and paying you for content you created. We actually opened up Patreon for PHP Ugly. It had been like a running joke for about a year that we were going to do it, and then we did it, and like people are actually becoming Patreons and subscribing to us. And I mean, we have all of our goals. Like there's $1, there's a $2, there's a $5, and they're all pretty low. But it's just like I've kind of gotten more into that. Like when people started contributing to us, I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I started looking into the whole network. And it's like, man, this is neat. Like you feel like somebody's doing a good job, and you're kind of not like benefiting or appreciating it, and you have an opportunity now to say, hey, thanks, here, get a cup of coffee or have a beer on us or something. But I also think that's how, at least there for a while, that's how Taylor had structured his whole kind of support system for Laravel. They were all just Patreon levels. I'm not sure if that's still what he does, but I know that was one of his approaches early on.
Yeah, I know we had like the partnerships on Laravel.com, where the people who are partnered with Laravel are in some respect, but yeah, I actually don't know how they pay him, but maybe it's through Patreon, maybe they send him a check. I don't know. Now what?
I sent you a message a while back. I've been waiting for you to queue it back up, but you haven't yet.
Oh, DevOps chat.
Yeah.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
Did you not want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. I had my designer redo a design and logo for DevOps chat, and relaunched it a couple of weeks ago. And what we've got on there is we curate DevOps-based articles. So we go through the site, we have a job board, we have an event board. But I have a marketing problem. There's no job, there's no event, because nobody wants to put them up. So, but we have a community of 15, maybe even closer to 20,000 members in that Slack community, all talking about DevOps stuff. But that's the crux of my problem is I have a large community, but I have a marketing problem.
You got a marketing issue, yeah.
I think maybe you should start a marketing chat. And then once you start a marketing chat, you can get people to like help figure this problem out, right?
Yeah, I'll have a marketing podcast and learn from them, and then I'll become unstoppable, right?
Yeah, right.
All right, I'm going to throw it out there. I'll ask the controversial question, because I am the ugly guy, and I'm allowed to do this because nobody likes me anyways. But the whole Laravel community, the LaraChat Slack channel that you've been running for years now, Sean, and then Laravel recently announced their Discord channel. Thoughts and opinions on the Discord channel. Do you feel like there's room in the world for two large messaging platforms for Laravel, or how's everybody feel about that?
Oh boy, Eric, what a question.
These are the questions people want asked.
See, this is the problem with this show just being so ad hoc that I don't have time to prepare any thoughts around this. I'm like literally put on the spot.
Oh, he's flustered.
Yeah. No.
I have a viewpoint.
Go ahead.
No, actually, to get into it, I
was like, I have an opinion. So I was like, nope.
Yeah, Matt, go back into your corner, please.
So,
my thought, I joined the Discord right away. The problem for me is I don't use Discord for the company here, so sometimes I forget to turn it on. And when I do, there's some conversations happening in there that are interesting to follow. And the ultimate end of the day thing that I enjoy is being able to connect with people who are like-minded. They care about PHP, Laravel, learning new things, having someone I can, relay questions to. Whether I do that in Discord or whether I do that in LaraChat, it doesn't really matter that much to me. But I tend to stick with the LaraChat Slack mainly just because my business uses Slack and it's always open on my home machine and on my work machine. That's, I guess, the political answer.
Matt, you had an opinion.
So I think it makes a lot of sense as to why Taylor went with Discord, or at least tried to create a separate layer for that's really got, like, when you look at the way the channels are structured and everything else, it's really targeted towards all the different products and components that are part of the Laravel ecosystem, right? LaraChat itself, I think, is more of a free for all style, and we've had a lot of community kickback, I get, or kickback. I don't know if that's the right term for that, but
I think the channels are community driven. Like the people will suggest, "Hey, how about a channel for whatever?"
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah.
But it's also just a different style, and it's interesting to see how that has kind of all gone. I went on it. Funny thing was, I thought I was on it, and then I was on some different one, because I'll be honest, there's like multiple Laravel community ones.
Mhm.
All right, so Google it, and yeah, you'll find a few. But of the ones I've seen in the chats that I've seen, it's different. I think, I don't know. I don't know if it's because he thought that he'd have more of a control over the community, or more avoid some of the explosions of cultural fighting that seems to happen in LaraChat every so often, which is really just childish and just plain annoying for everyone.
I think that's something you guys don't get a lot of credit for, because I'm part of it, but I'm nowhere near as big of a part of it as Sean is and you are, Matt. But how hard you guys work at resolving disputes and kind of keeping some of the toxicity out of LaraChat, because things have a tendency to get kind of hostile in there, and there's a whole slew of well, what do you call them?
Moderators
You guys have that just talk about this stuff constantly and are constantly going through it. And I was curious of how the Laravel Discord was going to handle that, but quite honestly, I can't keep up with LaraChat Live. There's so much conversation, so many conversations going on that I can't keep up with that. I'm completely lost when I go over to the Discord. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, unless I'm looking for an answer or something, there's just too much discussion going on. I've got things to do. I'm a busy person.
Yeah, I kind of just connect with you guys and talk with you guys, and a select other group of people, and I don't really go in the channels to talk about anything anymore.
Yeah,
I never really even did, that I distinctly recall, even inside LaraChat when I first joined it. It would be occasionally I would go in and try to help someone with something, and that's kind of what I've done in different chat groups. Is I'll just go in and try and help someone with something occasionally, and it's only if I see it as something that's like, oh well, that's easy for me to help. But it's one of those things where it's like, I like talking with people on a one-on-one level. I can actually make sense of things then, and it's just easier for me to process. Large group chats get so confusing so quickly because so many people post. So like even within our team's chats in Slack, sometimes I'm like, what? And I have to scroll back pages. Even PHP Ugly can get that way, where I'm like, that sounded interesting 5 scroll ups ago, right? And it's like, what do I do now?
One of the things I want to talk about, I'm glad you mentioned about the moderator, because I know for a long time we had a problem with like the toxicity of the community, to the point where I had people messaging me saying, "Hey, I'm gonna pull my LaraChat link if this doesn't get cleaned up." And of course, these are all happening because I'm in Pacific time zone. These are all happening at like 5 a.m., 7 a.m., and I'm getting these messages, being woken up and like, what's going on? Who's saying what? Who's doing what? So that's where I was really trying to crack it down. And thankfully, I had people volunteer to help moderate some of it and help me try and get some of it under control. because that was really frustrating to be, trying to deal with something at 7 a.m. in the morning and then going to work with a positive attitude, having dealt with some people being trolled or attacking each other and trying to find the middle ground, defend my decision to ban a troll or a spammer or whatever have you. It's really stressful.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful for the moderator group that we have there right now that have been able to help me, try and keep some of this under control, because for a single person to manage a community that size, it's not easy. It's not that much fun at times.
What about you, TJ? Do you participate in any of these public forums?
Yeah, I try to. I don't like Slack. So for like as just like a service and as a chat client, it's too. One of the things, I guess, I'll talk about the opposite of it. One of the things I like about Discord is that it's not as like, you're not really sucked in to the different groups you participate in, right? So like, let's say if like some of this Discord stuff was in Slack, right? So there's like a PHP Ugly Slack, there's a LaraChat Slack, I've got like my local user group Slack, right? So you've got these individual buckets, but there's no crossover. So if I just want to have like a generic, like direct message with somebody, I either have to be in that bucket or like I'm like breaking out into like a separate service to have like a direct message, or like maybe I want to have like a breakout group with 3 people that span these 3 different, these 3 different communities. That's not really possible. But with Discord, you can have these buckets of like predefined communities, but you also still have this like centralized user account that you can like spin up little groups from people without having to create a separate account inside of each different community. And then like, oh, I've got this message here, but then this other conversation's going on there. Like the Discord service just seems to be a little more unified. And then if you want to take the step into like screen sharing or like audio chat, nothing touches Discord. It's amazing. So if you wanted to like share your screen with somebody and present something, or if you wanted to like have a handful of people in like a group voice chat, like the audio is crystal clear. The video like works great almost every single time. And Slack, you just don't have that quality of service in those areas. So just regardless of the community, I definitely prefer Discord over Slack. And so for me, it made a lot of sense when, Taylor put together the Discord group. It was like, great. I prefer Discord anyway. I kind of move over there, and I feel the same pain with you guys. Like, it's just way too rapid fire. Like conversations are really disjointed. It's hard to follow. I feel like really once you break the like 15 to 20 people, it starts getting way too chaotic. I am a moderator over on the the Laravel Discord. I try to like spend time in different rooms just to like make sure everything's okay. But I definitely like prefer the Discord anyway, but I've been in and out of like the group chats and stuff, just trying to like stay sane, be focused on things. Like those can be really distracting. I don't know. I guess it's like my rambling on it. Like I prefer Discord. So like if LaraChat was on Discord, like that'd be like that'd be a difference for me.
There is
well, I'm in the PHP Ugly Discord. I don't talk much there, but I do gander. I'm in the Laravel one here and there, but I've got like I'm with Matt in the like I prefer the smaller groups. Like I've got like several different breakout groups with different sets of people, and like that's really where I like prefer to spend my time.
And I totally get what you're saying about the unification or just being able to cross over into communities from Slack. That's always been one of the things that I thought was really disjointed with Slack, is the fact that I had to sign up for a new account for every Slack channel I wanted to belong to. And, over the years, those accounts have changed. Like I used to be, when I first started signing up, I was always using my user group email address of sdphp.org. But now my entire life is around Diego Dev. But if it's one of these older Slack channels that I haven't logged into for a while, I have to remember, oh yeah, that's right, this is one of the ones I used my old address on. And I really feel like I've always, I don't know, I've always been surprised that they haven't done something to overcome that and say, okay, you can now talk to anybody within the Slack world, even if you're not part of that community, more like Discord. But I don't know. I guess that's their whole thing.
Well,
Yeah,
I think that's a marketing thing where Slack is their market is offices, companies, and that's what they are for. Really, that's what they came out for. And Discord, their market product bid is with the gaming community, having gamers be able to talk with each other. I think it's just a different marketing problem that each company is trying to solve. And I don't see Slack doing some kind of cross-relational thing. I just don't see that happening. But funny note, not funny, interesting note, semi-interesting. When we started up the Slack way back when, however many years it's been, we created a LaraChat Discord as well. There's only like 2 or 3 people there, but we have a LaraChat Discord. We just never advertised it.
Yeah, I think the whole Slack versus Discord, like my ramble, I think that's like just a really good example of like user driven evolution. Like that wasn't Slack is now being used, I think, especially when you look at like how communities are using Slack, it's being used in a way that they never expected it to be used that way, like from the get-go. That's why there's all of these like architecture issues of like these like really hard boundaries in place. Is that's just not a thing they ever thought that they do. I'm sure it was very office driven where it's like, all right, you've got this group, this is the company, and inside of there you've got some subgroups, but no one ever leaves this bounds. It was kind of meant to be like one thing. You've seen some direction there of like, if you've used the same, I think, email address across all of them, you've got some sort of like unification there. At least like you can be like, hey, show me all the Slack accounts that are on my name, and you can like sign into Slack and it'll like auto log you into all of them if you like kind of configure it that. But I think I just think it's a really interesting problem to look at of like, yeah, we released this product and now it's being used in a way we never expected. And how can we optimize, like try to optimize that experience, but still, we made some really core architecture decisions in the beginning that are maybe preventing those bounds, like a really root level. But I know that's something I've definitely thought about and found interesting when, thinking about any product ideas I have or looking at other people's product ideas and going, how could this be used in a way that I'm maybe not thinking of? And is that okay? Or is there any way I kind of like make it more flexible for that? Or I don't know, just that it's something that I looked at and found really interesting.
So, one thing I've been thinking about the topic we've been talking about, and we're kind of wrapping up near the end of the show, but we're a technical community. We've talked about marketing, we talked about the businesses, well, maybe not businesses, but products we're trying to build, things like that, but we haven't talked technical. I'm actually curious, anybody have any technical problem that they're facing that we can chat about just to stay true to what we are at the core?
Sure. How much have you guys looked at Parsedown? Like really looked at how Parsedown works?
Forgive my ignorance. What Parsedown?
All right. So I've over the last like a few days, I've released a couple like Parsedown extensions. So Parsedown is a PHP library for like ingesting Markdown and rendering HTML. So you can like pass it like Markdown text, and then like it outputs renderable HTML to like display in your browser, right? So there were I used ViewPress for a project at work. And there's some neat features that ViewPress has that like Parsedown doesn't. Parsedown has like kind of like stayed true to like, here's the Markdown spec. We're going to handle that. If you want to do anything extra, you can extend it. So I wanted like these like alert style callouts that I saw on ViewPress. I thought that was like a really cool feature. So like I ended up like diving into the library to figure that out. And then I render my website with Jigsaw. So I had only one JavaScript dependency on the entire website, and it was to render code blocks. Like so, like you got the fence blocks of code in Markdown, and I wanted to render them like all styled and nice looking. So I had highlight.js, which is a really heavy JavaScript library for like parsing the fence blocks, and then like you've got a theme and it like renders out the DOM with certain classes, and now you've got like a whole library of different themes that you can do. But it's pretty heavy. I want to say I could totally be off. I wanted to say it was like around like 300K for the library. And then that's not even something that does anything interactive too. It just like it parses the DOM after the document's ready and like changes the fence code to HTML. Like it seems like a total waste for something that could be done server side. So again, I like dove into parse down and figured out how to extend it in order to do server side rendering that still renders out to all of the same style as highlight.js. So that way any highlight.js theme is now also compatible with like the server side rendering. So I was able to get rid of like any sort of JavaScript on my website. Things load super fast. But I found parse down to be a really interesting project. I think the only other well-known markdown library is like PHP League's Common Mark. But Parsedown seems to be like the favorite of the community. I don't know. I see it all over the place. So as I was getting into it, I really read through all of the source to figure out how it works in order to like make these extensions. And I don't know, just like the code was really interesting. It's all a single class. So it's not like there's no other objects or anything. It's all a single class. And then kind of based on some variable naming structures, there's kind of like a loose associative array like object that gets passed around that is like it's got certain nested keys and a certain structure to it, and that's how it like renders out then knows how to like render out the DOM and like do different escaping, and it's just really interesting. I don't know. I found it like an interesting implementation where it's like it's one class, there's no other objects, and it's like pretty rock solid. Like it looks kind of like spaghetti-ish code. Like I don't know, it's not very pretty code. It's if I went to start it out to like write a markdown library, I don't think I would do it that way. I'd love to see some sort of like extension system in it rather than just like, all right, I have an extension, so I just extend parse down, and then you use my class that extends parse down, and now you've got like my extension. So if you want two extensions, you now have like 3 levels deep of extending parse down. But it's also just super rock solid. Like there's a new dot version coming out, and it's really just like a couple extra features and some bug fixes. But
So
it's just like
what were the
goes.
packages you really, because you've released like 2 or 3 packages around this, right? Or was it just the one for Jigsaw?
So I did 2. There's the parse down highlight, which is like the server side rendering fenced code blocks, and then I released parse down alert, which is kind of these like little call out alert boxes with like this like kind of different syntax to it.
Nice.
So highlight was the one that I like went through and actually put together a Jigsaw example for, because I think a lot of people with like Jigsaw sites are probably mostly like static documentation or blogs, and probably don't need much, if any, JavaScript. So to be able to just get rid of like any really heavy JavaScript dependencies, I think is really nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I remember using highlight.js in some, I don't know, sites or blogs in the past, and being really frustrated with the file size and the fact that it was including, I mean, I know I can take out all the different languages, but I don't know, things just got screwy, and then I ended up with, like you said, a 300K JS file, and it's just like, ugh. But actually, I didn't know about Parsedown, so I'm going to have to check this out, see what it's all about. I'm actually really intrigued now.
Yeah, all of the new extensions that I've built, because it does like some raw DOM rendering, requires version 1.8 of Parsedown, which I think is in like beta 5 right now, because it kind of added an extra attribute for just saying like, hey, don't reparse this. This is like raw HTML. Like just render this. There's like a requirement for that in both of these. So it's got to wait until like 1.8 is out. But if you're doing just like a personal site or something with Jigsaw, you can totally use beta 5, like whatever beta release they're on right now. It works fine. But yeah, it's just like if you have a chance and want to see some like really interesting code that is, I don't know, I feel like it's pretty bomb proof. Go check out the Parsedown library. Like actually source dive the class. I think it's unique. It's very interesting.
I was just taking a look at something on Parsedown to see if they would, or no, wait, maybe I'm looking at a different spot. Have any of you guys ever played with Mermaid JS or know what that is?
Nope.
That's like it's like another markdown component thing, but GitLab supports it, and I wish GitHub did, but you can actually draw up graphs in Markdown. So you can actually have like a nice documentation file that shows like a logic graph and everything else from like top down, or do a sequence diagram and stuff like that. And I was actually able to use that as like a way to demonstrate how I wanted to convert a whole bunch of stuff from Angular like components into Vue components and stuff like that. And it was just nice being able to actually kind of draw it out and not have to have links between like a Google Drive document way over here and then go back over to this documentation to understand why I want to do this thing over here. Because it's one thing I loathe about documentation is it's like you start reading something and then here's an image, but you can't change the image because you have to go over to this file to change this thing, to save the image again, to then link it back to this document. It's unnecessary.
Draw.io. I use that a lot for kind of like needing to do like charts and relational stuff too. And I think it all exports to like XML, which is pretty easy to like keep in VCS. So if you got to like go and edit it and stuff, and I think it's got some like Google Drive hookups, but Mermaid looks really cool. I use like for any of that kind of stuff, I definitely use Draw, but I'll check this out. It's pretty interesting.
Cool. Well, I guess that wraps up our show today. We've been talking crap for about an hour here, and I think we've done a successful job at it.
Thanks.
We said words.
Things were said, feelings were had.
Yeah.
Nothing mattered.
We shared opinions, and those count.
That's right.
Now, do they really? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. All right.
If you want them to.
Yeah.
We need a way to wrap the show up. Like, we don't have a cool way to wrap the show up. It's kind of like, all right, well, bye.
That'd be the best ending.
Yeah, it's like when you sit at a table with your friends and the server puts down one bill and you're kind of like, which one of us is gonna? Yeah.
So I haven't had, I don't know if I've had before we all sign off, I kind of wanted to
All right, have a good night. Oh.
Yeah, yes.
Go ahead.
No, I think I may have said something on Twitter, but like I unfortunately missed the last one, and I wanted to say a big thank you to Eric for Wave. Wave was a really cool experience. I was super stoked to be there. I've been absolutely heartbroken about leaving San Diego and like being back here in Michigan.
What's the weather like today? Because it's
horrible.
Like 80 degrees here.
No, man, it's like 40 and rainy. They're like expecting like snowflakes tomorrow, and yeah, not great. But I wanted to say I think PHP, Wave PHP was fantastic. I'm so glad you guys decided to do it again next year. I will absolutely be there. I just wanted to like publicly say thank you and like let you know it was a really good event, and I'm very excited for next year.
Thanks for. I mean, it was such a good event because of speakers like you and everybody else who showed up. I mean, Sean was there, but whatever. It was speakers like you, TJ, that really turned the tide.
I don't know, man. Those mission control lanyards, those are pretty sweet.
I have a ton of them. I have a ton of them left over. So, and was that your first California burrito?
That was.
Yeah.
I had many burritos while I was there, and they were all delicious.
All right. Yeah.
So
cool,
yeah,
man.
I guess and on a high note there, I suppose.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Looking forward to doing. We were just talking about today. We've got to start getting sponsors and stuff in line so that we can start to plan dates out and get things set up. So cool, man.
I heard of a really cool Bulma theme website, and I think they could probably sponsor next year. It would be a really good marketing opportunity.
Nobody likes Bulma. Nobody uses it. Screw those guys.
You really told me, Eric. You told me.
I think there's also a really cool you pre-buy blocks of time to get like unlimited design time. I think this would be another great marketing opportunity for them too. People in San Diego and PHP developers, like they need design work, and
that'll be a topic for our next show. We'll talk about what people look for in conferences, because I got a lot of feedback from it after Wave PHP, and I'd be really curious about you guys' opinion on that and what direction you think we should go for the next wave. So
I have so many thoughts and opinions.
So you need to be here in 2 weeks.
I'll be here.
Cool. I love that. That's a great idea. And TJ, marketing master. I mean, you put into shame. All right, guys. Well, that's it for tonight. Thank you for watching, and thank you, Eric, Matt, and TJ, for being on the show.
Thanks. Cheers. Thanks for having us.